All right, Andy, we are looking at your rough draft for your extended essay, and it is Monday, yeah?
Yeah.
June 2nd. And if we hear crazy screams of bloody murder, it's the kids outside on the playground. It's not us. Okay. So, let me read this over and see where we're going. Okay, good. I watched the movie Hercules last night. The new one. Have you seen it?
With Dwayne The Rock Johnson?
No.
Oh, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, I saw that one.
Okay.
That's funny.
Placard removed until that. Wow. That's interesting. Is before is that
It's like body paragraph.
okay.
Because like as I do my like research,
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of getting ideas of how it's used. So then like that's like what's forming like each body paragraph. Because my annotation is like the quote, and I'm kind of annotating like I could copy paste it into my thing. Like I'm writing it as like if this was part of my essay.
Gotcha. Let me see these. Oh, hold on. If I leave this one, it'll stop
Oh,
recording.
I have it right here.
Okay. Okay, cool. Sorry. Is this all from Jeffrey Miles?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do it by book.
Okay. Interesting. I think this quote here, so two writers from parts of the third world who might be expected to draw on their own indigenous mythical traditions have found use for the myths of Greece and Rome. The Nigerian Will Soyinka's version of Euripides' Bacchae, or the St. Lucian lyric Walcott's revision of the Homeric characters in Omeros have shown that the ancient stories can gain a new vividness when naturalized in a completely alien setting. Right? And that's kind of getting to what you were talking about, like why it's so popular. Awesome. Sure thing. So I think what we're starting to see is that there's so much information out there, right? And that there's a couple of different I don't know what to call them, angles maybe that we could pursue this.
Yeah.
And with something as short as, and I say that honestly, I mean 3,000 words is not that long relative to what you're doing, which is, tracking, trying to analyze why Greek and Roman mythology is becoming more popular almost, even though Greek and Roman are no longer spoken, and even though it's 2,500 years later, these stories are super popular. So you could, just from what I've seen and what you've got here, we have kind of the idea of gender, with you've got the Duffy with Medusa, and this idea that recently now female authors are taking up what has been traditionally a very male-oriented kind of mythology, or male-oriented mythology. It's not that there aren't women in the stories, but and kind of retelling them. That's interesting. That's I think that's one angle. Another might be a geographical angle, like with the New Zealand being so Odysseus obsessed. Maybe it has to do with island cultures there, with certain stories. That could be interesting. Are the more mountainous regions more aligned, or do we see that happening more in places with mountain? I don't know. I'm kind of stretching there. I see the island connection though, with New Zealand and Odysseus. And then another might be, two more that I'm just from your notes. One would be the kind of importation or exportation of the Greek myths into these new cultures, like the one that I read in detail about the I can't ever say this person's name without reading it. I probably am messing it up anyway. The Wole Soyinka's version of Euripides.
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of migration across cultures. It's not just. I mean, these are places that are not traditionally where they're not traditionally getting Western stories, kind of
Yeah.
Greek and Roman stories. You know what I mean? And yet there's still the source. And then the last one, I'm thinking might be the analysis of the story itself, just like why it is such a good story.
Yeah.
The idea of that hero or the tragedy,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe kind of tracing that out. So just as you're continuing to work on these body paragraphs, because this is going to spread out exponentially if you keep going with trying to cover every angle. And maybe choose one or two. Maybe take a look at the story itself and female authors, or translating into or tapping into new cultures and island geographical concepts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It just a suggestion,
Yeah.
because I think it's going to be too much to do well if we've got all these various subtopics kind of coming up. And this is precisely what I hoped for when I suggested this to you. I think this is much more appropriate for an EE than just a Percy Jackson
Yeah.
kind of comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And you've done some great research, and you've really started to pull on some strands or threads, that are, I think, worth investigating. But start to, if you can, maybe choose one or two and maybe focus a little more, maybe do a little more research specifically along those lines, and see if you can't
Okay.
see what you get there.
Mm-hmm.
Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, it does.
And it might be that you look at, and the last suggestion might be just looking at a couple of stories, specific aspects, whether it's the Ovid, or Odysseus. Maybe that's what you trace forward.
Yeah.
I mean, just a lot of different ways you can go about it, but we want to narrow it down just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause
It's huge.
it is.
I mean, it really is. It's vast.
Because I have 1,000 words within 3 paragraphs.
Right.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, we're only getting started. You're kind of giving us background at this point,
Mhm.
We haven't really dove into the real analysis, so.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Well, if you do more work, send me an email. Let me know, and I'll check it out. Okay? That'll work better than the manage back. If you'll just send me an email anytime you update anything you want me to take a look at it, I'd be happy to.
Okay, I have to do research on, should I narrow it down with, within the topic, one of the topics that I found in here? Because I think I have, 3 topics in here right now.
Mm-hmm.
3 or 2 maybe. So I should, one's on, the geographic of New Zealand.
Uh-huh.
And then this one's just, the fable side.
The which side?
The fables, teaching
Oh,
lesson
okay.
type of,
Yeah.
entertainment type.
I'd say if you want to stick with those two, that's great.
Okay.
Okay. But we want to start, probably have some more body paragraphs that develop or analyze some of these, that start to kind of dig into some of these. more specifically kind of drawing some connections. And it's not just your reporting what other people have said. It's kind of getting in there and mixing it up a little bit.
So I should like take Greek stories and like use it and like analyze those stories to like support what my like topics are.
You certainly could.
Okay.
And again, maybe choose one or two that you think are, and maybe, you know, I mean, keeping it interesting, maybe look at the Percy Jackson and apply this kind of analysis, religious significance or anthropological or psychological, and see how that works, you know, and maybe explaining why the Percy Jackson stories are not just entertaining, but also conveying some sort of message.
Okay, yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the Odyssey for the geographical. And maybe if he doesn't say it outright, he probably does, but you want to emphasize that it would seem, it would seem that if New Zealand is so Odysseus obsessed, part of it's got to be because they're an island seafaring culture, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just as Odysseus was. Yeah, that could be good.
Mm-hmm.
Those two right there.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Awesome. And again, I just encourage people to write. I don't really worry about how organized it is at this point. What I do encourage people to do, though, is to keep this going, where you are putting in your citations and page numbers, because that's going to save you a lot of time and hassle. The sooner, just getting these in. Forget about the formatting, even though you don't need that comma there technically, but don't worry about the formatting so much as it is just the author and that page number. Because then, the nice thing is you can go back in and we can, move paragraphs around and reorganize it and do all of that kind of work.
Yeah.
Once we start to see some patterns emerging. But whatever works for you. Okay? All right, cool. I'm going to stop the recording, and the link is as it uploads. Please stop.